The rain came down hard that evening. It hit the windows of the small diner on 5th Street like tiny stones. Inside, the air smelled like coffee and warm bread. Most of the tables were full. People were laughing, talking, staying dry. But outside, standing under the narrow roof above the diner's front door, was a man who looked like he had nowhere to go. He was tall, but he stood like someone who had forgotten that. His jacket was thin, the kind that does nothing against real cold. His shoes were wet. His hair was flat against his forehead. He was holding a little paper bag close to his chest, trying to keep it dry. He didn't come inside. He just stood there, looking at the menu taped to the window. His eyes moved slowly across the prices. Then he looked down at his hand. He was counting coins. A woman named Clara was sitting by the window with her young daughter, Lily. Clara was a nurse. She had worked a long shift. She was tired. She just wanted a warm meal and a quiet moment. But she couldn't stop watching the man outside. "Mommy," Lily said, tugging her sleeve. "That man looks cold." Clara didn't answer right away. She just watched him count his coins one more time. His name was Daniel. 3 months ago, Daniel had been the CEO of Hartwell Solutions, a mid-sized tech company he had built from nothing over 15 years. He had an office on the 22nd floor. He had a driver. He had a schedule packed with meetings and decisions and people who needed him. Then, in the span of one terrible week, everything fell apart. His business partner had made secret deals behind his back. Money had moved in ways it shouldn't have. By the time Daniel found out, the damage was done. The company's board blamed him. Investors pulled out. Lawyers got involved. His bank accounts were frozen while investigations ran their course. He wasn't guilty. But proving that took time. And time, it turned out, cost everything. He lost his apartment. He moved into a small room he rented by the week from an old building near the edge of town. He sold his watch. He sold his suits. He kept only what he needed. But the one thing he held on to, the one thing he protected more than anything, was his daughter's medicine. Sophie was 8 years old. She had a condition that required daily medication. It wasn't cheap. And Daniel had made a silent promise to himself: no matter what happened to him, Sophie would never miss a single dose. Tonight, he had just bought her last bottle of medicine. That was what was in the paper bag. The coins in his hand were everything he had left. Clara watched him make a decision. He looked at the menu one more time, then put the coins back in his pocket. He straightened up slightly, like a man trying to hold on to something, and began to walk away into the rain. Clara was already standing up before she knew she had decided anything. "Stay here," she told Lily. "I'll be right back." She grabbed her umbrella and walked outside. The cold hit her face immediately. She jogged a few steps to catch up with him. "Excuse me," she called. The man stopped. He turned slowly, like he was used to people ignoring him and wasn't sure this was real. "You left something," Clara said. He frowned. "I don't think I did." She paused. Then she smiled, soft and honest. "You're right. You didn't. I'm sorry." That was the only thing I could think to say. She held out the umbrella. "You look like you need this more than I do." He looked at the umbrella. Then at her. His jaw tightened slightly, the way people look when kindness surprises them and they don't know how to hold it. "I'm fine," he said. "You're soaking wet," she said gently. "And that bag looks important. Whatever's in it, you're trying very hard to keep it dry." Something in his face shifted. He looked down at the bag. "It's medicine," he said quietly. "For my daughter." Clara didn't push him. She just held the umbrella over both of them and walked beside him. "I'm Clara," she said. Daniel, he answered. They walked without saying much for half a block. Then she stopped in front of the diner again. Come in, she said. Just for a few minutes. It's warm. My daughter is inside. She'd probably talk your ear off, but she's good company. He hesitated. I can't afford. I didn't ask you to pay for anything, she said. Plain. Not unkind. Just honest. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded, very slightly, and followed her inside. Lily looked up when they came in. Her eyes went wide with curiosity, the way children look at new people like they're puzzles to solve. This is Daniel, Clara said, helping him with his wet jacket. He's going to sit with us for a little while. Hi, Daniel, Lily said seriously. Are you sad? Daniel blinked. He looked at the little girl. Something crossed his face, something that wasn't quite a smile, but was close. A little, he admitted. Lily nodded like this made perfect sense. That's okay, she said. My mom says sad is just your heart trying to say something important. Daniel sat down slowly. He placed the paper bag carefully on the table in front of him. Clara ordered 3 bowls of soup without making it a conversation. They ate quietly at first. The soup was simple, tomato, with bread on the side. But the way Daniel ate it told Clara everything. He ate slowly, like someone who was trying to make it last. He held the spoon carefully. He didn't waste a drop. Lily talked about her day at school. She talked about a bird she had seen on the way to the diner. She talked without needing anyone to respond, just filling the silence with something warm. And Daniel listened. Really listened. His eyes softened. After a while, Clara asked gently, "Do you have family nearby?" "My daughter," he said. "Sophie. She's with my neighbor right now. Mrs. Huang, she's kind enough to watch her in the evenings." "How old?" 8. He paused. "She doesn't know how bad things are. I've tried to keep it that way." Clara nodded slowly. "That's a heavy thing to carry alone." He looked at the table. "It's my job to carry it." "It doesn't have to be only yours," she said. He didn't answer that. But he didn't argue either. Before they left, Clara slipped a folded piece of paper toward him. He opened it. It was $200 and a note that said, "For Sophie. From someone who believes things can turn around." He stared at it. His hands went still. "I can't take this," he said. "You can," she said quietly. "And one day, when you're back on your feet, you can do the same for someone else." Daniel walked home that night feeling something strange. Not fixed. Nothing was fixed. The investigation was still ongoing. His name was still uncertain. His room was still small and cold. Sophie still needed him to be strong. But something had shifted, like a door had opened just a crack, and a small amount of light was coming through. He thought about Clara's words. Things can turn around. He had stopped believing that. Not because he was weak, but because when everything falls at once, it's very hard to imagine the ground ever becoming solid again. That night, he sat beside Sophie's bed after she fell asleep. He watched her breathe. He held her small hand. And for the first time in months, he didn't feel completely alone in the dark. The next morning, he got a call from his lawyer. New evidence had surfaced. Documents his former business partner had tried to delete, but hadn't fully erased. A forensic accountant had found them. The picture was becoming clear. Daniel had been set up. The fraud was not his doing. The process would still take weeks. But the direction had changed. Daniel sat down on the edge of his bed and pressed his hands together. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He just sat very still and breathed. Then he thought of Clara. Of Soup in the Rain. Of a little girl who said sad is just your heart trying to say something important. He wrote her name on a piece of paper. He didn't know her last name. But he remembered the diner. And he made himself a quiet promise. 6 weeks passed. The investigation closed. Daniel was fully cleared. The evidence against his former partner was overwhelming. The board of Hartwell Solutions issued a formal statement taking back their accusations. His accounts were unfrozen. His name was restored. He didn't rush back into his old life. He took it slowly. He found a modest apartment first, nothing like before, but clean and warm. Sophie had her own room again, with yellow walls she had picked herself. She didn't know every detail of what had happened. But she knew things had been hard. And she knew her father had not given up. One afternoon, she hugged him without warning. "I knew you'd fix it," she said into his shoulder. He held her tight. "I had help," he said. "From people I didn't expect." He spent those weeks also thinking about the company, about how he wanted to run it differently if he ever stepped back in. He had been a good CEO before. Successful. But he had been distant from the human side of things. He had cared about growth, about numbers, about results. He still cared about those things. But now he also knew what it felt like to be invisible. To count coins in the rain. To accept soup from a stranger and feel, for one moment, like a person again. He returned to Hartwell Solutions on a quiet Tuesday morning. The staff lined the hallway when he came in. Some of them clapped. A few looked relieved. Daniel thanked them. And then he went to work, with something new in his chest that hadn't been there before. Finding Clara was easier than he expected. He remembered the diner on 5th Street. He went back on a Saturday afternoon, and he asked the owner if a nurse named Clara came in regularly. The owner, a round, cheerful man named Pete, grinned. "Clara? Sure. She's here almost every Friday evening. Sits by the window with her little girl." Daniel left a message with Pete, that a man named Daniel would like to speak with her, if she was willing. He left his number. She called that evening. "Daniel?" Her voice was the same, warm, careful. "I wanted to thank you," he said. "I know that's not enough. But I didn't know how else to start." There was a brief silence. "I'm glad you called. I thought about you. I hoped things got better." "They did," he said. "Because of more than just the money. You treated me like a person. That mattered more than I can explain." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said softly, "You were always a person, Daniel. That was never in question." He swallowed hard. "I'd like to meet. If you're open to it. I want to say thank you properly. And I have something I'd like to offer, not as payment. Just as a way of passing it forward." She agreed to meet the following Friday. They met at the same diner. Same window table. Same soup on the menu. Lily was there, wearing a bright red coat. She recognized Daniel immediately and waved like they were old friends. "You look different," Lily announced. "Do I?" Daniel said, smiling, a real one this time. "You look less sad," she said simply. "I am less sad," he said. He told Clara the full story. Not everything, but enough. She listened the way she always did. Carefully. Without interrupting. Without judging. When he finished, she shook her head slowly. "You never said a word," she said. "About who you were. About what you'd built." "That night," he said, "that wasn't who I was anymore. I was just a man in the rain trying to keep his daughter's medicine dry." Clara looked at him for a long moment. "And now?" "Now I'm both," he said. And I want to make sure I never forget what that corner in the rain felt like. He slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check, made out to the children's clinic where Clara volunteered on weekends. He had found out about it from Pete, who knew Clara well. He had also drafted a new program at Hartwell Solutions, a fund for employees facing personal crises. Named quietly, without announcement. It would help people the way he had once needed help. Clara looked at the check. She didn't say how much it was. She just folded it carefully and put it in her bag. "Thank you," she said. "No," he said. "Thank you." Daniel never forgot that rainy evening. He kept the memory close, not as something painful, but as something true. It reminded him of what people are really made of when everything else is stripped away. He went on to lead Hartwell Solutions for many more years. The company grew. It did well. But the thing his employees remembered most was not the growth or the success. It was the way he treated people. He knew the name of the woman who cleaned the office every morning. He remembered birthdays. He stopped when someone looked like they were struggling and he asked, quietly, sincerely, if they were okay. He never made a big speech about what had happened to him. He didn't need to. The way he lived said it clearly enough. Clara continued her work as a nurse. She used the donation to expand the children's clinic's medication program, so that parents who couldn't afford medicine for their children would have somewhere to turn. She never thought of herself as someone who had done something extraordinary. She had just done what felt right. Lily grew up with that story as part of her family. Her mother told it to her differently as the years went by, not as a tale about a CEO or a mystery or a twist of fate. She told it simply. A man was struggling. We helped. That's all. And maybe that really is all it takes, one person who sees another clearly, in the middle of a rainstorm, and chooses not to look away.